This up here for a moment. You know, 1 out of every 2 marriages ends in divorce, and these divorces result in millions of fathers becoming weekend dads, fathers who live out of town and only see their children on holidays, or if they're lucky, their kids live close enough for weekend visits. Many times, fathers, though, feel like strangers to their children because they're not around for emergencies or the simple joys of seeing their children grow up. We spend a lot of time discussing custody battles, but what about living with the verdict? In Channel 5's continuing campaign for kids' sake, we hope this morning's program will help improve the quality of life for families in the Bay Area. Here to explain his battle to hold on to his children's love, please welcome C.W. Smith.
Good morning.
Welcome to People Are Talking. You
Thank you
wrote
very
an
much.
article for Esquire
Yes,
magazine
I did.
and then decided to expand the contents of this article about being a weekend father to a book. Why?
Well, I got a lot of response to the article through the mail at Esquire, and some of it came from fathers, as I expected, who saw themselves in my situation and recognized a lot of the material that I wrote about. But I also got a lot of mail from people such as mothers who were custodial mothers who were either angry with me for having a point of view or were sympathetic with their non-custodial counterpart, as it were. I also got letters from second wives, and this really surprised me, who would say something like, I know that my husband sometimes feels sad, and I don't know exactly why, and then later I learned that he was talking on the phone to his daughter who lives in another city, and he found out that she was in a play today, and he couldn't be there, and he can't quite talk to me about this, but he nonetheless really felt bad about it, and I know that your article really told me a lot about the way he was feeling. I also heard a lot from children who had grown up, who had to say that they didn't understand that their father really had probably felt the way I had when they were growing up, and some of them said that they wished that their father had been like me, and some of them said that it's not a good idea for you to be talking about these things in print. So
let's find out what you were talking about, what your point of view was. You were married for how long?
I was married for 18 years.
And you had 2 children when you divorced. How old were they?
They were twins. They were 9 and a half, boy and a girl.
So what was your point of view?
My point of view was I didn't want to get involved in all the business about the custody suits and the legality of the questions, because that was simply, this was not a book, a sociological treatise or a legal book at all. It was about myself and my children, because I considered this to be the most serious trouble I'd had as an adult, trying to maintain contact with my children subsequent to the divorce. And my former wife and I were very cooperative, and even so, even given that, there are so many difficulties in the situation. They lived across town for a while, and they would come visit in my apartment. Then for almost a year, they lived in another city, 300 miles away, which is an extremely difficult situation. So my point of view in the article was really trying to deal with all those feelings that the children and I had against each other and for each other and about each other as a result of this situation.
To give our audience a better idea of kind of what your situation is like, because it is not unlike many situations out there. You were married, you waited 8 years, you had children, but you expected only one. Can you remember how you felt the day that they told you you in fact had 2 bundles of joy?
Well, we were very surprised.
No indication.
We found out when they were there that our children were, our child was going to be children.
What did you think about that as a father?
I was frightened.
Did you want children?
I wanted children. I didn't know whether I was up to, whether I had the personal resources, the energy, the time, the effort, the patience, the discipline. I didn't know. I mean, it was a test for me. It was my first.
So
it was my first child. Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. I think I did quite well, and I felt that for many of the early years, I was very present in the home, and for a while, my wife, who was in television, worked, and I stayed home.
Well, she does what we do, or
yes,
she?
Yes, she was in the news side. So I stayed home for a year and a half and wrote when they were about 4. And
so you were like a house husband.
I was a house husband for a while. And
do you remember when you first told your children you and your wife were separating or getting a divorce?
This was an extremely vivid scene, which those of people who have been through this, either as parents or children, tend to never forget this scene in their lives. This is my first lesson in how I was not going to be a part of things. And my former wife and I had agreed that we would tell them together. And I had been living in the apartment for about 2 weeks. I had moved out so we could test the waters and try to figure out what we were going to do, and we decided that we were going to go proceed from there. And I said, well, let's tell them together. She said, fine. And I showed up at the house, and they'd already been told. She'd taken them out and told them. And so I sort of took them out and told them again. And my feeling was that she had, perhaps rightfully so, thought, well, if he's going to leave, then he's no longer going to be a part of our deliberations. Then what happens from here on out will be between myself and my children, and he can come and be a consultant if he likes, or he can come, but he will not necessarily have anything to do with these direct decisions about what happens. And this is true across the board from then on about schools, about pediatricians, about neighborhoods, about jobs, about their friends. All of a sudden,
She shouldered the whole responsibility of parenting and kind
I
of
think
cut you
anybody
out.
in my situation suddenly finds himself, if you're accustomed to having your say and your way, all of a sudden you are reduced to a consultant's role, and it's a frustrating thing because...
I was real scared when I came to the hospital, but my friend Kara helped a lot. She used puppets to show me everything that's going to happen. I got to ask all sorts of questions, and it made me feel a lot better.
At Children's Hospital of San Francisco, we believe that understanding what happens before it happens makes a hospital stay less frightening for a child.